Hi, I'm Janet. I'm the hot mess car medium, and this is where we get into all of it. This is a show for moms who feel everything, sense everything, and are still trying to figure out what to do with all of it. Some episodes will make you laugh, some might make you cry, and some might make you check if your lights are flickering. So grab your coffee and buckle up. Hey, welcome back to Hot Mess Car Medium. I'm Janet, and I want to start with a metaphor that changed how I understand my brain. Neurotypical brains, that's brains without any kind of neurodivergent, that's the word. Neurodivergent. Neurotypical brains can be reset like Etch-a-Sketches. You make a mistake or you want to start all over again, you just shake it up and blink. ADHD brains, we are snow globes. And when the snow globe is spinning, the channel is static. That's the best way I can explain it. And how I tried to connect with spirit before I understood my nervous system. Because for years I thought my gift was broken. I tried to do readings and it was like trying to find a needle in a haystack while somebody was actively shaking the haystack. There was so much noise, panic, so much, oh my God, what's happening? My nervous system was freaking out. I had to figure out what to do with it, so I have named it Gerald. And Gerald was losing his mind. Because Gerald is basically an overprotective publicist who thinks every emotional inconvenience is a HR violation and should be reported. And back then, Gerald thought that spirit was absolutely some sort of violation because we couldn't see it. And if it can't be seen, then obviously it must be feared. So I'm connecting and I'm getting information, but it's a bit muddled. Immediately it was panic. What if we're crazy? What if it's not them? What if I'm connecting to something that's not great? What is happening? And for a while, this just stayed that way. I thought this was just how it is. I guess this is how my brain is going to work with this. Sometimes I even thought maybe I'm making this whole thing up. But looking back now, I realize that there was something important underneath. It wasn't my gift that was broken. It was my receiver. Because when your nervous system is super loud and dysregulated, everything sounds loud. Fear sounds loud. Anxiety sounds loud. Overthinking sounds loud. It's like when your smoke detector goes off and you're only making bacon and you're like, calm down, it's bacon. And your smoke detector is like, I don't know what the difference is, but I'm just going to make noise because everything feels the same. That's how it felt. And I didn't get clear messages, even though it sounded like I did. I was getting a lot of static. But then I realized what was happening after I was diagnosed with ADHD. The diagnosis really contextualized my entire life. And suddenly I realized, oh, okay, Gerald isn't trying to sabotage me. He's trying to protect me. And then I felt for Gerald. I thought, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Because from his perspective, I was in a tornado. I was getting hits from places we couldn't see. And again, that's danger. He was the one that was like, absolutely not. We are not adding dead people to the situation right now. Because honestly, fair. I had a full-time job, 2 kids, one keeping me up at night, the other one having a lot of emotions that, a 4-year-old would have. That's how old my oldest was, 4, when my youngest was born. And Gerald was like, we have enough on our plate without talking to disembodied beings, okay? I didn't do much work for a while. Because again, no sleep, no regulation, no boundaries, no understanding of how my nervous system actually worked. And I did try the meds, and I still have meds for different things. But if you have ADHD, you know the drill. Meds work, you're great. Body adapts to the meds. Meds don't work as well. Find new meds. And repeat for however long the cycle lasts for you. You get it. So of course at that point, spirit was overwhelming. My receiver was overloaded. It was like when you have a really old computer and you're trying to do all kinds of updates and run on memory that's not going to work. You should have bought the bigger memory, but you didn't. And now your computer overheats for everything, including Netflix, when you're trying to play Coco Melon. That was my brain. And once I understood that, then I could change it, but not overnight. It happened very slowly. It stopped feeling like trying to find a needle in a haystack because with practice, my haystack got smaller and the needle got bigger. And that's really the best way I can put it so you can kind of conceptualize it. The signal became easier to recognize because I stopped trying to hear it through emotional chaos. I have to tone down the volume of the emotional chaos so that I can connect and get the messages that need to be delivered. And the biggest shift wasn't even spiritual because that gift was there. It had been all along. But it was my nervous system regulation. That changed everything. That was the missing piece. It wasn't raising my vibration. It wasn't becoming more psychic. It wasn't buying millions of crystals, though I do have a good amount. It wasn't having sage every corner of my house. No, none of that happened. It wasn't even forcing medication. It was just regulation. Because regulated nervous systems mean clear reception for me. And maybe that's not for every ADHDer. Maybe not every person who's neurodivergent wants to connect to dead people. I get that. But we're still not taught how to regulate. We're taught how to hide it. Or we're taught tools that aren't made for our brains. And so it could work potentially for people who don't actually have a connection to spirit and just want to live a more quiet life. I get it, because a dysregulated nervous system equals noise. Regulated nervous system, clear reception. And that's the framework. Some of the tools that helped me were very, very simple. Cold water, grounding, reducing overstimulation, Reiki, and just knowing what my boundaries and my limits were. Because I realized that I wasn't the one that was broken when I get overstimulated or overpeopled. My snow globe is just shaking. And the snow settles a lot slower for me than it does for somebody else. If you have an Etch-a-Sketch, respect for you. I don't know how you do it so quickly. How do you recover from that? It takes me so much time to recover from overstimulation. Have you ever tried being at Chuck E. Cheese for a 4-year-old birthday party? There's like 12 birthday parties going on at the same time, and they all sing happy birthday at the same time. It is actually chaotic in that kid casino. And anytime I see an invitation for Chuck E. Cheese, I'm like, oh, okay, I have to mentally prepare myself for about 2 weeks before then. Reiki was especially helpful for me because it was passive and it gave my brain something to do while I was giving myself Reiki or giving Reiki. I was able to imagine Reiki coming in through my body like a light beam or even like a water slide. When the water goes down the slide, it's just so smooth and it gets you from point A to point B. That's what I imagine Reiki is like when I'm doing it. Traditional meditation is still kind of like a taboo word for my brain. Because people would say, clear your mind, and Gerald would immediately start grocery shopping and going, no, I don't want to clear it. Like he had a whiteboard full of all kinds of things. Think of Good Will Hunting and all of the math problems on the board. And that was Gerald. And he's like, I'm not erasing that. That's my work. So traditional meditation was out. I can't just sit on the ground and be like, this is great. I feel nothing. I think of nothing. Planning fake emergencies, you know. And with kids now, it's even crazier. I don't have time to meditate. No. But Reiki didn't require me to force any silence. It just let me receive. That's when I realized my sequence to a better session of communicating with spirit. Regulate, receive, and interpret. Not panic, overthink, spiral, and Google repeating numbers at 3 a.m. That framework changed my relationship with intuition too, because now I can tell the difference between Gerald's assessment freakouts and genuine intuitive hits. And here's what I found out in case you're on this journey too. Panic feels urgent. Panic feels like fear. Intuition feels clearer. Panic says, do something right now to avoid this very serious hypothetical situation that we have crafted out of thin air. And intuition feels quieter, more grounded, neutral, steady. And if the snow globe is spinning too hard, I don't interpret anything. That's why if you've gotten a message from me or you ask me a question, I'm like, hang on, let me connect, because I really need to tone down the noise, just turn the volume down for a second. But I have the tools that I need to do that. Reiki. Maybe if I'm by my fridge, I open up the freezer and I sit there and let it hit me for 10 seconds. Anything that will snap me out of any spiral that I'm on or any thought train that I happen to jump on. Because if I don't interpret anything, or my brain tries to interject and say, well, this is what we can fill. That's not actual message giving. That's ego getting in the way, and that's a whole different episode. But that's the key. Before any reading, any meditation, any spiritual work, before trying to figure out what the message is, I check my snow globe. Is it spinning or is it settled? Because I cannot clearly download when the publicist is having a breakdown. And this is what I do in order to prepare. For example, if I have to do a market where I know I will be doing readings back to back to back to back, I try and limit the amount of things that I have to do during the week. So maybe I don't put brain effort into dinners. Maybe we have a lot of frozen dinners. Or maybe I outsource and we say, let's go out to eat. Or we order. Things like that. I try and pick out everything and have everything ready for the market at some point 2 or 3 days before, so that at the last minute, I'm not just frantically trying to get it all together. That doesn't work well for anybody. I try and get enough sleep because I know sleep is one of my triggers. And if I don't get it, my brain starts again doing the hypothetical emergency situations that could potentially happen in another dimension. And I need to prepare for it now. I also drink a lot of water. You've probably heard, or if you haven't, here you heard it first. You have to drink a lot of water and stay very hydrated to connect to spirit because it is draining. It's an energy expense. And your payment early on is water. This is why some mediums connect better with water, either going for a swim, taking a very long shower, taking a bath before they have to connect and do that kind of work. Water is more of a conduit. We tend to hear messages a lot quicker in that way. And the day of, I just try and let things slide. Anything that comes on is not sticking to me. This is how I explain things to my daughter. Regularly, we go out with sticker outfits if we're not protected. And every emotion that we feel or we hear can stick to us. And that's why we can feel overwhelmed when it's not even ours. So I try to tell her, let's put a protective thing over us. Let's put maybe something shiny or something that just is going to allow whatever sticker to not stick to us and fly off immediately. So that's how I try to keep my brain the day of the readings. That way it's easier to just flip the switch of regulated. Anyway, if this resonated with you, or if you are also in the midst of a spiral and you need stuff to stop you in the moment, I created something for myself that I think other people will benefit that have my same brain framework, or even if you don't, and you just need some help because life is really lifing hard. You can check the link in the show notes and follow me at Good Luna Healing on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. And I'll see you in the next one.